Jimmie Johnson adds the Daytona 500 to his schedule, Front Row Motorsports switches technical alliances, and NASCAR tweaks the format for this year's Clash at the Coliseum. How's it going, y'all? My name is Eric. Welcome to a jam-packed episode of Out of the Group. We'll get to all the latest NASCAR news in just a moment. First, I've got to shout out my boy John Garrett and Fort Worth Screen Printing. Fort Worth Screen Printing has helped me out with merch for years. If you've picked up one of these Out of the Groove hoodies or one of the Phoenix or Podcast Party Bus t-shirts in the past, you're already familiar with Fort Worth's fantastic work. Huge supporters of the channel, participated in the Groovy Hollow charity iRacing event the past few years. And they're racers themselves. You may recognize John Garrett from the Arca Menard series. If you need any sort of custom apparel for your business, your church, or just for yourself, Fort Worth Screen Printing is your go-to. Really appreciate everything John Garrett and Fort Worth Screen Printing have done for this show in the past, so click the top link down below. Be sure to show them some love. Let's begin with Stewart-Haas Racing, because I've been hard on Stewart-Haas Racing this offseason. Let's report on some good news for a change. Josh Berry announced a 2-race sponsorship deal with Harrison's Clothing. They've been with Josh Berry at Junior Motorsports. They're making the jump to Cup now with Stewart-Haas Racing. Good looking paint scheme, by the way. Any and all sponsorship wins are a big deal for Stewart-Haas Racing. We've talked about Busch Beer leaving, Smithfield leaving, Hunt Brothers Pizza leaving. A lot of folks on social media recently have pointed out that, Gear Wrench, Rheem, and several other sponsors are no longer listed on Stewart-Haas Racing's online partnership page. Sunny D confirming their return last week is a big deal. Landing Harrison's, even just for a couple races, is another big deal. Hope to see things trending a more positive direction here for Stewart-Haas as the season begins. Let's talk about a couple interesting Xfinity Series signings. Today, Jeffrey Earnhardt announced a part-time deal with Sam Hunt Racing. My friends at the Daily Downforce were first to report on this. Great deal for Jeffrey. I know he's a fan favorite. His first start will be Atlanta towards the beginning of the year. Great opportunity for Jeffrey to hopefully run top 10, top 15 somewhat consistently. I mean, that's what these cars are capable of. I hope Jeffrey does well. I want to see him prove to the world that he's more than just a famous name, because that's the sad truth. I mean, I would argue Jeffrey Earnhardt has never been more relevant than he was a couple years ago when he drove the 3 car, see the connection, for Richard Childress Racing, see the connection, at Talladega, see the connection, with Larry McReynolds as his crew chief. A lot of connections there, it's obvious. That was probably the most relevant he's ever been. He did great in that race, by the way, so it wasn't just those connections, he actually performed, so I hope to see more of that from Jeffrey Earnhardt this season with Sam Hunt. How about this for a surprise announcement? Daniel Dye is joining Kaulig Racing for 10 Xfinity Series races this year behind the wheel of the number 10. This move is somewhat perplexing. I get that sponsorship drives the sport. If he has the check, Kaulig has the seat. They're not going to turn him away. But Daniel Dye was 18th in truck points last year for GMS Racing. Not very good. He's Haley Deegan, but without the massive social media following. Maybe there's something there. I've tried to be cautiously optimistic with Haley Deegan. Maybe the Xfinity Series will suit her better than the trucks. Perhaps the same can be said for Daniel Dye. But we really didn't see any special from Daniel Dye last season. Honestly, this may be bad to admit, I didn't realize he raced full-time last year until I looked up his stats a few minutes ago. That's how little I saw of him last season. That needs to change this year in Xfinity, especially with Kaulig, a championship caliber Xfinity team. Let's move on. Let's go from Xfinity to the Cup Series. Rick Ware Racing confirmed today that Justin Haley will drive the number 51 car full-time this season. Chris Lawson will join the team and serve as crew chief. Chris Lawson has spent the past few years with Front Row Motorsports. He was Zane Smith's crew chief in the Truck Series the past 2 years, winning the Truck Series title back in 2022. Very interesting pairing right there. I like it. He may not have any Cup Series experience, but he has winning experience. Chris Lawson has won races at some of the top levels of NASCAR. He's won a championship. There's a pedigree there. He walks into the room, I think people are going to at least turn and take note of what he has to say. So young, I think fairly talented driver in Justin Haley. We really don't know what his ceiling is just yet. Pair him up with a crew chief who's proven he can win, at least in the Truck Series. we'll see. Justin Haley's trying to sell all of us that Rick Ware Racing has gotten better. They've made investments, the Roush Alliance. This is a good career move. He's been trying to sell us and himself that this was a good career move to go to Rick Ware. I think most of the fan base are not 100% sold just yet, but a move like this one, putting Chris Lawson on the pit box, a name many NASCAR fans will recognize. Okay, all right, I'm hearing you out. I am very intrigued by Rick Ware Racing this year. We still don't know who's driving the 15 car now full-time. Some rumors have pointed to Kaz Grala, which could be a real interesting choice, but nothing is confirmed just yet. Good luck to Justin Haley. Chris Lawson could be a dynamic pairing for a team still trying to find their footing in the NASCAR Cup Series. I know, we're moving quickly today. Jimmie Johnson has confirmed he will attempt this year's Daytona 500. 7-time NASCAR Cup Series champion, a 2-time winner of the Great American Race, go back to 2006, 2013. Carvana will once again sponsor his number 84. This time it's a Toyota Camry. Jimmie Johnson driving a Toyota Camry in the Daytona 500. This is weird. It still feels strange. He's added even more races to his schedule. Jimmie Johnson, I believe, has 9 Cup races scheduled for 2024. That's a quarter of the schedule. Daytona, Texas, Dover, Kansas, Charlotte, Indianapolis. That's right, 4-time Brickyard 400 winner Jimmie Johnson is back for more. Kansas again, Las Vegas at the end of the year, and then Phoenix, the finale. He won't be in championship contention for a change, but Jimmie Johnson will race at Phoenix in November. So he's got 3 crown jewel races on his schedule. Daytona, Coke 600, Brickyard 400, which is back. And yes, I think it has to be considered a crown jewel. Interesting mix of tracks, mostly bigger intermediate ovals. I guess Jimmie's done his homework. He's watched the races the past 2 seasons. He knows where the next gen car is fun to drive. Makes me wonder, why is Jimmie Johnson making 9 Cup Series starts this year? Like that's a pretty hefty schedule for a driver who's basically been retired from NASCAR for over 3 years. Is he just trying to challenge himself the same way he challenged himself when going to race IndyCar for 2 years? Is this purely a business decision? He's got Carvana signed on for 3 races. Family Dollar will sponsor him. Advent Health will sponsor him. Is Jimmie just making these starts to solidify those sponsor deals and build those relationships to better his race team? Could be. Or maybe Jimmie Johnson actually believes he can win a race. I mean, look at some of these tracks. He's an 11-time Dover winner, 2-time Daytona winner, 4-time Brickyard winner. I've lost count of how many races he won at Texas that I sat in the grandstands for. Maybe he's convinced himself he could actually win. I think Daytona is his only realistic chance, but who knows? Maybe he has. He is a competitor. He's one of the greatest to ever do it. Who knows how people like him think? Maybe it's just for fun. Maybe he's looked at the next gen the last couple of years and said, hey, Kansas looks like a lot of fun. Charlotte looks like a lot of fun. I'll do those races. Sprinkle a few more here and there, but I'll focus on the fun tracks. Maybe that's his philosophy. It's as simple as that. I don't know. It's fun to see Jimmie race still, even though he's clearly not at the top of his game. He's not as familiar with these new next gen cars, but it is still fun to see him show up from time to time and compete. So I'm looking forward to Jimmie racing this year. I hope he does well. I think it would be awesome if somehow, some way he squeaked out a win or at least a top 5 finish. I don't think he will. I'll go on the record right now. I don't think Jimmie Johnson wins a race this year, but Daytona could be in contention. Charlotte, that race has been crazy. The 600's been crazy the past couple of years. He could be in contention if he plays his cards just right. Outside of those two, I don't see Jimmie contending for a victory anywhere else, but we'll have to wait and see. I've doubted him in the past and it's come back to bite me, so I guess I shouldn't make that mistake again. Front Row Motorsports is switching their technical alliance from RFK to Team Penske. Travis Peterson, crew chief for the 34 car, was on SiriusXM NASCAR radio.
The smaller teams like us kind of have to do things like that to survive because we don't have the big engineering departments. Getting the support for your simulation tools or processes to measure parts and things like that. And we've kind of always done that with RFK for a long time, and now we're switching over to Penske. So the gist is that you don't have 20 engineers at the shop providing information at our place, so you kind of go be aligned with a team that does have that and just use their information.
I've wondered if something like this might happen, especially since Rick Ware Racing moved onto RFK's campus. These days, you're really just sharing data and information, so I'm not sure it was a strain on RFK's resources to have 2 technical alliances, but it may have complicated things. You never know. Penske right now, their only alliance is with the Wood Brothers, a single car team. So it may be easier for Front Row Motorsports to hitch themselves to that wagon. RFK's on the rise, but Team Penske is the two-time defending championship team, so Front Row really couldn't go wrong either way. I think both teams have a lot to offer these days. But there were some interesting comments there from Travis Peterson kind of explaining why a technical alliance is necessary. What does a small team like Front Row get from having a technical alliance with bigger organizations? I thought some of those comments were a bit interesting and enlightening. Let me know in the comments below. Michael McDowell won a race, made the playoffs this past year. Will Front Row Motorsports be better in 2024 aligned with Team Penske? Or should they have tried harder to stay with RFK for another season? Let me know what you think down in the comment section below. Finally, NASCAR confirmed the 2024 Clash at the Coliseum format. And I don't love it. In some ways, the changes were maybe necessary, but that doesn't mean I'm a fan. There won't be an official single-car qualifying session. Instead, the field will be divided into groups. There'll be multiple practice sessions, and your fastest lap during final practice will set the lineup for the heat races. There will be 4 heat races. The top 5 finishers in each will advance to the main event. That all takes place on Saturday this year, which is different than years past. On Sunday, the NASCAR Mexico Series will race earlier in the afternoon, which is new and is very exciting. Trackhouse confirmed today that Daniel Suarez will make his NASCAR Mexico Series return. He'll race in that preliminary event. That race will be on FS1 here in the States as well, so some great exposure for one of NASCAR's international series. But after the Mexico Series wraps up, then the last chance qualifier will take place. The top 2 finishers advance to that evening's main event. There's one final spot reserved for the driver who finished best in 2023 points, but who didn't race their way in through the heats or the LCQ. So that means the main event Sunday evening will feature 23 cars, 150 laps, green flag laps, count only. Race will be on Big Fox, similar to last year. So notable changes, the heat race is being moved from Sunday to Saturday. I'm not a huge fan of this change, especially since, at least according to Bob Pockrass, it sounds like fans won't be allowed on Saturday. So what, we're going to run 4 heat races in front of empty grandstands? That doesn't look good on TV. My ticket last year for the Clash allowed me to watch the heats in person. Tickets this year won't. Kind of a missed opportunity. You're taking content away from fans who bought tickets. That's just my 2 cents. They're probably making this change because of the inclusion of the Mexico Series. That's clogged up the schedule on Sunday. NASCAR was probably worried there wouldn't be enough time to also fit the heat races in. So this spreads things out, balances the weekend a bit better. That part I can understand. But now my ticket doesn't allow me to watch the heats. That's kind of a bummer. Only 23 drivers make the main event. Like, there will be some big names who go home, who only race in the short LCQ on Sunday. I don't know. I'm not a fan of this change. If they allowed fans into the stadium on Saturday, which, maybe TBD, maybe things could change. If they allow fans in on Saturday, I'll feel a little better about it, but the grandstands will still be pretty barren, which doesn't look great on TV. I love the inclusion of the Mexico Series, and I'm glad that at least the LCQ will be on Sunday leading up to the main event, so fans will get to see that race in person. But moving the heats to Saturday, I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of that move, even though it may have been necessary to accommodate the Mexico Series. And I think that's awesome that the Mexico Series is there. Let me know what you think down in the comment section below. I've been to the Clash each of the past 2 years. I'm not planning on being there this season. I've had a great time the last 2 years, but the formats looked a bit different. I'm not sure I'm a huge fan of the changes for this year. Let me know what you think down in the comment section below. We covered a lot of ground today. Thank you all so much for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new to the channel. I greatly appreciate it. And I greatly appreciate the support I get from each and every one of you on Patreon. Have a wonderful rest of your day, folks. I'll catch you in the next episode.